So, the concept of teaching and learning, and just the concept of learning in general, has always been uh, almost related to the concept of survival for me. And I say that because I come from a background in which education is considered like a form of pulling yourself out of poverty, pulling yourself out of the class that you are at, and also pulling yourself out of the identity that you hold as a person who is less educated, and I think that that very much still reflected in when I first wrote my paper on teaching and learning philosophy, and and also when I wrote that, I was at an interesting place in my life where I was really angry about the cards that I've been dealt, or the types of barriers that I have encountered, and how like how unfortunate, how annoying that I have these barriers, and part of me was partially shameful, but also just angry. Um, and and I think that as the semester progressed, and it's an accumulation of a lot of things, but I've come to a place where I have found the ability to understand some of those challenges, and being able to really look at the concept of how the body understands oppression. Bell Hooks telling about how body remembers the passion of experience, and I wrote a little bit about that in my my first time around with this, but uh, I think I absolutely understand what it means now in terms of your body remembering oppression, and how oppression, or how learning is stained into who you are, and so for me, the semester was a lot of understanding some of the internalized racism, or internalized discrimination that I have in myself, and I have on the concept of learning, and really figuring out, what is considered legitimate knowledge, and how does legitimate knowledge look like. How do you share knowledge so that it is legitimized? And a lot of this has to do with myself being an artist too, being a person who's more visual, and being in a world where things are less visual. So being able to share with people this knowledge that I have of the visual world, and how history is recorded through colors, and history is recorded through pictures. And so for me, it was really being able to pull all that together. The sense of oppression being knowledge, in the sense of images creating knowledge, just pulling all of that together to create a cohesive image. And it still relates back to the analogy that I made in my paper about how energy is never lost or dissipated. It is only transferred, and I truly do believe. And when I said that, I truly do believe in the concept of how that really happens. Is that education should never be lost. Or dissipated. It should be transferred. And when I wrote this paper originally, I thought really about the educator being the person who does the transferring. But I think now how I understand it is that maybe not so much as being the transferring, or like being the vehicle to transfer knowledge, but also being able to recognize the spaces that learning happens in. And these spaces may look differently for different students, and also being able to recognize that learning, it comes at different times for different students. And this is also coming from a person who always thought of education as like a go 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 go, learn this, learn that, a checklist. And um, and and I guess this semester more than ever really taught me the concept of really going in depth into something like our action research project, really looking into a specific idea, really listening to the voices, and how voices forms knowledge, and how that knowledge is can inform other policies or procedures. And so for me, the experience of the action research has allowed me to really see how people talk about their experiences and the knowledge that they have about a specific topic, and it was really enlightening. Um, I do want to leave the I do want to leave this talk, going back to the analogy of how I used how when your hands are submerged underwater, they become ripple, because that's your natural body's reaction to being able to adapt to the world that you live in. But I also think that it's interesting because I think about it in terms of science, but I think that if you really think about it in terms of like teaching and learning and knowledge, I think it's amazing how human bodies, or how just in general evolution has happened to create like a better version of who we are, or a version that's able to sustain the environment in which we live in. And I think that that's really interesting. And I think like even the look about going back to look at education can really help us understand some of those processes. And I would like to continue to search about what that exactly means to me, because I think I'm still in the process of learning that.